Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Jenks Center. We are located in Winchester, Massachusetts, if you're not familiar with our community center. Our event this evening is made possible by the Cummings Foundation, a grant from them, and also the Winchester Senior Association. Just some light housekeeping, little information for you. Please make sure that you use the chat function while our presenters are speaking, and we will address that towards the end. If you have questions, please stay muted during the program. And also, you'll receive an online survey to meet the requirements of the Cummings grant. And we ask that you fill that out for us. We really appreciate that. So in September, we have one more program on the 20th. That will be at 7 p.m. That's an in-person event, Evening with David Coffin. And then in October, we have a virtual event tour with the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum in Santa Fe, New Mexico. That will be on October 4th at 6 p.m. Please make a note because that's a bit earlier than most of our programs. We have a virtual event, of course, Composer's Corner with guest Thomas Beveridge. Did I say that correctly? And Andrew, my wonderful husband, he'll be our host. That will be on the 11th at 7 p.m. We have a virtual event, Steven Spielberg Behind the Camera with Deborah Block. That's a virtual, so make note of that. She has been coming in person, but this one will be online. And that's on the 13th at 7 p.m. We have an in-person event, Walk With Me, The Life and Legacy of Fannie Lou Hamer with author Dr. Kate Clifford Larson. That's on the 18th at 7 p.m. She is a resident of Winchester and has agreed to come and speak. We have an in-person event with Anthony Sammarco. That's Halloween Traditions in Boston. He's an author and speaker, and we're having him back for that event. That brings us to this evening, Composer's Corner with guest Bruce Posner, friend and archivist for the Andrew Violette estate. And Bruce is an expert for the Andrew Violette estate, his life work. Andrew Violette was born in 1953 and passed in 2021. He was a New York City-based composer, pianist, organist, and synthesizer player. He was active as a solo recitalist, accompanist, and recording artist. He composed over 90 works, leaving a legacy of wonderful music. Bruce Posner, his friend, has been the composer's friend for 46 years, witnessed the creation of many Violette's works. Bruce is preparing an archive of Violette's writings, performances for the posterity, for our posterity and for the world. And Andrew will, right now, he's going to interview him, and we're so excited to have him here this evening. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and turn this over to you.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a little bit of a background noise there. I think we're okay now. Okay, great. Bruce, thank you so much for joining the show.
Sure,
tonight.
happy to be here.
Really excited to have you here. And you know, the way this started, actually, it's quite interesting. I was down in the Washington piano competition last year. Probably was August, so it's more than a year ago now, and was sitting in with Janice Weber and just telling her about my show and saying I'm looking for composers. And she said, well, have you heard of Andrew Violette? And I said, no, I had not. She said, well, unfortunately, he's passed. I said, well, that's not going to help me. How am I going to interview him? She said, well, I know the guy that knows him best is also his archivist, and he's amazing, Bruce Posner. You had your own radio show, Bruce, back at Fordham University called Concert Grand.
Yes.
And how many years did you do that?
We were on the air from 1977 until 1993.
And you are now archiving that.
Yes. The shows that still exist. Some of them do, some of them don't.
Mhm.
I've been loading onto the Internet Archive bit by bit,
That's
and
wonderful.
I hope to start a collection. To make it, group them so that they'll be easier to locate.
And I really enjoyed the one you sent me interviewing Janice. At that time, she was going under a stage name of Lily von Balmus.
That's right.
And, it was just a fascinating interview. She's quite an amazing pianist. And when she said that you have to check out Andrew Violette's music, I knew that was going to be, or Violette, I'm sorry. I'm saying
It is Violette, that's true.
I realized that, oh my God, this has to be amazing. And so I listened to some of the music, and then I said, I got to call this guy Bruce. And we connected, and here it is a year later, and finally getting this together. I'm very excited about it. I must say, this is the best organized interview I've ever been involved in, because Bruce did an amazing job of mapping out everything we're going to do down to the minute. And it's the thought you put behind this, Bruce, and the work you've done shows your true, commitment to be the archivist for this fellow. And I am very pleased to bring you on tonight, because I think you've got so much to share about what we're doing. Now, we're doing something a little different tonight too. Not only are we not able to interview him, but we are going to actually listen to pieces in their entirety, which I've almost never done. But Bruce was able to find a number of them that would fit into the hour. I think we have about 48 minutes of music, and we'll be able to talk about each afterwards. And I said, or before, we could set some of them up, and I said, Bruce, after that, I'd like to have a backstage thing. So after 8 o'clock, we'll have a little bit more where I'm just going to send, play snippets of some of the other music, because the genres he covered were quite wide ranging. And so, and one of the more fascinating things about him, I wish I'd met this guy because he's amazing. Geniuses are some of the most fun people in the world. Of course, they're probably a little eccentric and all that too, but he truly was called by Juilliard professors a genius. And so for him to be called that, I mean, you had to be good. And you'll see tonight some of the work he did was just unfathomable, if I could say that correctly. But similar to Liszt, another genius, he ended up going into the monastery, or I guess I may be saying that.
Yeah. Firstly, I want to say thank you to Janice Weber. I don't know if she's here or not, but she was the one who did connect us together. So I want to thank her. And she's, by the way, the only pianist, to my knowledge, to date, who plays any of Andrew's solo music. Solo piano music. That will change over time. I could begin, I guess, just with a very quick overview of his life. Very, very quick. Essentially, Andrew Violette avoided the standard composer's life. So he avoided academia, and nor was he interested in teaching privately. And so, fortunately, he had considerable instrumental virtuosity, and he really used that to provide an income while he led what I would say is mostly a solitary life as a composer. And so he played dance classes, he accompanied choruses, he played some solo recitals. He was kind of the house pianist for a record label called Opus One. Basically, if a composer had a difficult piano piece that they wanted to play, I mean, he was there to do it. So that was really the springboard that allowed him to live his life the way he did. So in the 1970s, he mostly did those things that I just described. He was also a music director at a church, and that continued really into the 1980s. And around 1988, he felt a calling. And there he is, and he went into a Benedictine monastery with the intention of becoming a monk. He was clothed as a monk, and he spent 6 years there. And for reasons known only to himself, he decided to leave the monastery and then enter the seminary to study to be a priest. And he did that for 2 years, and then in 1996, again, for reasons known only to himself, he left there, and then he hiked the Appalachian Trail for about 2 months. Knowing Andrew, he probably did hike the whole trail because he tended to set extremely high bars for himself. And then he went back and resumed his career, and he focused his career as a church musician. He was the choral director, the music director, and the organist for a Catholic church called St. Augustine's in Brooklyn. And that was the last job he held that until he could hold it no longer. So that's sort of the life in a nutshell. I think probably it might make sense to go to the first piece so we can hear some music, and then we can fill in some additional things as we go along. So the first piece was written in 1985. It's his first string quartet. It's in 7 movements, and we're going to hear the whole 6th movement, which is I guess you'd call it a jocular allegro. It's a fun, short movement, and this is from this particular performance by the Hampshire String Quartet was from the New York premiere of this string quartet. So movement 6.
Just amazing.
Yeah. So that piece, in my opinion, is modeled on one of the Beethoven string quartets, the Opus 131.
Yes.
C sharp minor. It may not be apparent because this is only one movement, but there's more in common, I think, than just the fact that they both have 7 movements. I guess I should say, for those who have studied music a bit, that Andrew's work fell into kind of 3 periods. I don't want to say early, middle, late, but I could. And he always sounds like Andrew Violette because the way he shapes a phrase, didn't change. And even when he was writing very dissonant atonal music, he never shied away from triads. So he always sounds like Andrew Violette, but the musical techniques he used varied. In the first decade, more or less, he wrote what would be called serial music or 12-tone music. The second decade, which this work, the string quartet, falls into, he created a series of modes or scales that were different than major and minor, and he used those to compose. and then the latest period, the last period, he went essentially combined the two. So he used 12-tone techniques, but he also had extensive use of triads. So it sounds tonal, but it's not always tonal in the way our ears think of as tonal. And you'll have a chance to hear music from all three periods. So this piece was an essay from the middle period. The next piece.
Because he's an intense personality. I remember you telling me that when he celebrated his 26th birthday, he rode the Cyclone in Coney Island 26 times.
It was his 25th birthday, yes, and he wrote it 26 times. That's right. Yes.
Very intense. You feel that in his music. He's just such an intense.
It's very intense. There's no question about it. Yes, yes.
Let's talk about the next one then.
Now, the next piece is actually may not come across as intense. It's actually a very devotional piece. It's for solo voice. It's one of his earliest compositions from 1970. Oh. It's for, as I say, solo voice. Here it's being sung by a soprano, but it could be sung by any solo voice. It's a Pistis Sophia. It's an invocation drawn from a Gnostic or a mystical or esoteric religious text that claims to contain additional teachings of Christ that were given after his resurrection. So it's obviously not part of the canon. Pistis Sophia means faith, wisdom, but from what I've read, a little bit I've read about it, those words actually don't appear anywhere in the books. It's a pretty long work, the book itself. It's in several volumes. So this particular setting of words is just an invocation from book 5. It was probably written, this book, in the late 2nd to 4th century AD, and it was originally written in Greek, which was translated into English in this particular setting that you're going to hear. But you'll also hear a language you don't recognize, and that language is Coptic, which is an ancient, no longer used version of Egyptian. It was used at the time, 2nd, 4th centuries, but it's no longer spoken. So for the words that don't sound familiar, they're all in Coptic.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Hear me, my Father. Devaraya amen, amen. Sarsa sodan amen, amen. Kugi ame yume ai, amen.
Wow, that is mystical.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, in a way, Andrew, at his most exposed, solo voice, writing to a sacred text. And I guess I should say that Andrew wrote almost equally for sacred and secular compositions. He was, I think he drew a lot of inspiration and strength from the sacred life, and it was very important to him. And two of his last works were sacred works, which I hope will be performed one day. But one was a St. Mark Passion, and the other is he called Pentecost. It's a setting of the resurrection from John 20. So this is an example of an early sacred. The next piece is an example. It's from the same year. He was, I guess he was 16, 17.
Before we go there, can I just ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as an Egyptian scale? It almost sounded like Egyptian to me.
I have no idea. I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
I would have to defer to an expert.
Power of suggestion, but
yeah. Well, it could be that there is some truth in what you say, but I know what you're saying, but I don't actually know.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So the next piece was written right around the same time, and it's certainly a secular piece. I think it's an example of a teenage virtuoso is kind of feeling their oats, just enjoying what they're able to do with the keyboard. It's a very short piece. It's called Fugue Americana, and was originally called Fugue and then renamed. This was from most likely a Juilliard concert. From what I understand, David Diamond, who was teaching at Juilliard at the time, just was just loved this piece. So he may have even requested that it be performed. So let's hear Fugue Americana.
Okay. Bravo. I love that you have this music all splayed out. I have to tell you that if I had looked at this, I would just give up before I started. This is incredibly intricate stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's actually harder to play than it looks.
Oh, no.
It is. What was I going to say about this piece? So if you were following the score, you may have noticed that there were some deviations from the printed music. And my personal feeling is that when Andrew was performing live, he was actually at his best because he took tremendous chances and he wasn't trying to get everything 100% for posterity. 99.5% was good enough.
Right.
You can hear that if you compare the commercial recordings with live recordings. That's why I chose this live recording.
Yeah, very nice.
So the next piece is a short set of variations on an Italian song, Amor dammi quel fazzolettino. First, we're going to play the actual verse so that you can hear the tune as it was played on the radio. Mm-hmm. And then you'll hear Andrew's setting of it. Andrew said that his grandfather's accordion playing was in the back of his mind when he was writing this piece. Basically, what it does is it deconstructs the song, and by the end, the song is very much there, but it just just disappears in a burst of light, you can again hear in this short piece Andrew's fondness for extremes. So let's first hear the song itself, a little bit, an excerpt of the song, and then we'll hear the piece right after that. And I should say Janice Weber and Andrew Violette are the duo pianists.
Ah, excellent.
Amor dammi quel fazzolettino, amor dammi quel fazzolettino, amor dammi quel fazzolettino, vado alla fonte, lo vado a lavar, te lo lavo alla pietra di marmo, te lo lavo alla pietra di marmo, te lo lavo alla pietra di marmo, ogni sbattuta è un sospiro d'amor.
I should really say, let me read a translation. Oops.
I'm trust that, but sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I wanted to read a translation of the lyric just so you can follow each verse in the piece. So the translation done by the composer is, love, give me that little handkerchief. I'll take it to the fountain and wash it. I'll scrub it on a marble stone, every scrub a sigh of love. I'll spread it out on a rose branch, every breath of wind a sigh of love. I'll iron it, every little crease, a little kiss of love. I'll bring it to you on Saturday. You'll meet Mom and Dad. Those who say love is not beautiful surely cannot make it. That's the various verses which you'll hear set as a set of variations in this piece.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
So that was written in 1976. So he he was using 12-tone idioms, and you can see them there. You hear them there, but you can also see, as I mentioned, he never shied away from a triad when he wanted to use it.
Oh my God. I would probably take me a year to learn one page of that.
I actually was the unfortunate person with whom Andrew wanted to try this out. It had just been written, and I happened to be in the department. Yeah, and I got about 2 pages into it, but I was there. I was the first person to sit down at the piano with him in that piece, even though I never was able to make it through much more than the beginning of it.
You know how when you wash a handkerchief and then you wring it out to dry? I felt a lot of wringing of the handkerchief in that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was great. Thank you.
All right. Now, the next piece was written in 1974, and there is no extant score. So it would have to be taken down from the recording if anyone ever wanted to do it. It's a very short piece, 20 seconds long, and he wrote it as kind of it's called Logo, or he also called it Logo for Majestic. Logo not as in logos, but as in a logo, a musical logo. So something that he was thinking maybe a theater or a movie or a TV show. This would somehow, introduce it. Like when you go to a theater, they have their own music that plays sometimes. So this was, I guess, an example of what he was thinking of. And he wrote this short piece, which I'm sure he would have expanded had there been a need to do so.
Okay.
That's it. So that Kim Leskowski was bassoon there. Andrew Violette was the pianist, and he didn't remember who the percussionist was. So forgive me for not saying who it was, because nobody seems to know. Okay, let's actually move on to a short excerpt from an interview that Andrew gave after a concert in 1997. And I chose it because he talks about a piece that he played in that concert, a sonatina for piano, and he talks about a little bit about how he put that piece together. So I thought we'd listen to the interview first. One thing Andrew said and quoted was that he sought to record sound in pure memory, that is, the events of our daily life. And he talks about how he incorporated a foghorn and a cuckoo clock that he was hearing as he was writing this piece. And he just felt, from an aesthetic standpoint, that it would fit in and that he would be able to make everything work out by still incorporating it. So let's hear the interview.
Excellent.
It's a sonatina, and I wrote it because I couldn't find any flute player to play a piece I wrote. This is a flute piece that was transcribed. All this is sort of garbage. The original flute piece went. So I said, well, I'm not going to get this music played because I don't know a flute player, so I might as well play it myself. So I figured I better do something to it. So I sort of went. And as I was writing it, I heard a foghorn in the background. And I said, gee, I really like that. So I thought I'd stick it in there. And so I was going along with the flute piece. And suddenly I heard a foghorn, so I went. And then toward the end, there was this great clock that I kept hearing. got to stick that in at the end. So I stuck it at the end. I went, but I had to stick something in at the end after that to balance it. And I figured no computer could do that, you know. I mean, it takes a real person to be able to stick all these things in at the right time and, you know, make it all proportional. You know, I'm not afraid to use anything that comes to mind, any composer that I could get my hands on and use it. I'll use it because I know that anything that I do, once I do it, it's me, because I'm using it in a certain way. So that's, anything else?
I love that. It's me.
So let's go here. This is a live performance. Again, I chose a live performance because I think you'll hear again, he doesn't follow the score exactly. He augments it here and there. And again, it shows how he played live in a very sort of exciting way that was typical of him live.
Okay.
I think we should probably have a few more pieces that I don't want to run over. Let's go right to the next piece, which is an example, I think, again, of how Andrew incorporated things that happened around him. He was living in Washington Heights at the time, and there must have been a Mr. Softy truck outside. And he was putting, yeah, I was just going to say, he wrote a fugue on he called him Mr. Frosty. It's the same as Mr. Softy. And this is for woodwind trio. And I'll just say now, Elizabeth Kuronsky is the oboe, Kim Leskowski bassoon, and Miriam Lockhart clarinet. And this is from the world premiere performance of this piece.
Excellent.
So that is actually from a larger piece called American Songs, settings of songs such as Clementine and You Are My Sunshine. That was the finale of that. Let's move to, and that was, by the way, composed in the second period when he was using those modal scales that he had developed. Let's hear a song, Edgar Allan Poe's El Dorado poem, set for baritone and piano, and this was composed in 1993, 1994. you may have noticed, had more triadic sounds in it. It was when he was starting to make the transition to what I was calling his last style, where he used triads quite a bit more. And we'll hear we'll hear some examples of that. But first, let's hear another excerpt from an interview from that same concert in 1997, where actually I asked him about this quote-unquote return to tonality.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask, there seems to be these days, if I may, an outbreak of tonality. Hopefully it's not like an outbreak of Ebola, but there is an outbreak of tonality. And I'm curious, as a composer I know has written serial music as well as music where there are triads, even if they're not always functional in the way that we think of triads. Do you have any sense of why there is this sudden coming back to tonality on part of many composers, or why did you come back?
I came back because I was tired of music that sounded. I wanted music that sounded beautiful, all right? But I didn't want music that was fun. So I thought, well, how do I do that? So I made chords that we hear every day, but I just made them in a coloristic way. I didn't think of them as functional, as going from one to another. I just thought of them as colors.
Interesting.
Okay, so the remaining works, and I'm looking at the clock, I think we probably have to maybe fade out on the last one, but this work is from a 2006 composition for solo cello called Songs and Dances. It's the opening movement, Fanfare, and again, you'll hear it sounds quite tonal, but not traditionally tonal.
Okay.
That was Ben Capps, as it says there, playing the cello. Let's move on to probably as tonal a work as Andrew ever wrote. It's a setting of Whitman's "Oh Captain, My Captain." I think he was actually thinking to write something that was, I'll put it in quotes, Broadway. I mean, something or more Schubertian, something where there is, I think, a mostly functional tonal setting of this piece. So it's unusual in his work for that.
Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills, for you bouquets and ribbon wreaths, for you the shores are crowding, for you they call the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. Dear Captain, dear Father, this army neath your head, it isn't dreamed that on the deck you'll fall in cold and dead. My captain does not answer, his lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm, he has no pulse, no will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip the victor ship comes in with object won. Exultals host and ring no bells, but I with mournful tread. On the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead.
Wow.
All right. It sounds a little like Brahms, actually, in places to me. So I see where our time is up. So should we mention here, Andrew, that there is, if you're interested in more of Andrew's music, since I do feel his music is worth a look, he has a YouTube channel under the name Special Editions 999, all one word. Maybe, in fact, when the show gets posted on YouTube, that could be, we could put some information on how to get his music in the comments, in the description. Would that be possible?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So I won't spend time on that. So let's conclude with one of his larger works, a string sextet composed in 2013. Very tonal sounding, but again, not traditionally tonal. This excerpt was originally 6 minutes long, but I say, Andrew, you know, fade out whenever you need to, and I'll stay for the after party. Let's take it from there. This string sextet, by the way, it's a fairly large ensemble, six musicians. He was already pivoting to write symphonies and other orchestral works, and I think, in my opinion, this was sort of one of his ways of sort of learning how to write for larger ensembles.
Bruce, thank you so much for this, because what we've done for the last hour is basically had a concert of his music. So we heard all his music in its entirety. We've never done it on the show before. I think that's a wonderful thing. So it's as if we all spent the last hour at a concert of his music. And after this, we're going to just hear some little snippets of some of his other material, just because there's so much to listen to. And I wanted to cover some of the other genres, including his religious kind of stuff as well. So without further ado, here's that next piece.
The sound just, okay.
I'm sorry, I was trying to shut it off, and I was instead shutting off the share. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
There's just so much beautiful music. In fact, one of the things that I had the pleasure of doing is over the last several weeks listening to scores of his music, and it's just wonderful. And I guess I also wanted to just take a moment to show a couple of images of him. Here is an image of him conducting a cello, I believe.
Yeah, it was actually the cellist that played the piece we heard.
You just heard, yes. And then also here's a picture of him, see if I can get to this now, with Gail and his, I assume his monastery days.
Yeah, no, this is when he was working in the Catholic Church in Brooklyn, where he was the choral and music director and church organist. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. And we have one more picture here. Now, I should say this is actually, it's a PDF. This is actually a Getty image. If you wanted to get this for real, you'd have to go to Getty, and Hirohiko Ito took this picture. Yeah. It's a wonderful
This was a concert actually just a few days after 9/11.
Oh my God.
It was given, and they went ahead with the concert.
Wow.
Yeah, it was called. The organization was called Friends and Enemies of New Music.
Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to also just briefly show, if I may. Let's see. How can I get to this quickly? This is the draft of the Wikipedia article that you put together, and it's quite inclusive. I mean, it goes on for quite a ways. It shows a lot of his, I assume, all of his compositions and
all of the ones that were approved. Yes.
Yeah, and the discography and the selected performances, it just goes on, and footnotes on footnotes, and I think if you type in draft : Andrew Violette, you'll get.
Well, I'm thinking we can put the link in that when the show gets posted. This is one of the things we can put in the in the comments.
Excellent, excellent, good. Okay, so let's now go through some of these. Now these are on YouTube. I did play them beforehand, and hopefully the ads are gone, but you never know with YouTube, so we are at some risk. So let's start with this one, which is called Finale Variations. Do you want to give a little preview?
This was from a violin and piano sonata, and it's variations on Look for the Silver Lining, Jerome Kern, which is, I think he wrote this not that long after his cancer diagnosis, so it was an appropriate song to pick, I think, to write a set of variations on. It's a 25-minute long movement, so you should listen to it obviously in its entirety.
Sure.
Each variation has its own character, and there's a Boffo Charleston in there, which we probably won't have time to hear. But
no, we'll probably just play about 3 minutes of it.
This is the theme, really. How he.
That's really beautiful. Okay. And the next piece, did you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, this was the world premiere performance, and it's written as kind of an operatic aria. So there are recitatives in it, and the piano essentially plays the part of the orchestra. I'd say it's one of his more lyrical pieces. Again, lots of tonal sounds that are used in a unique way.
Mm-hmm.
That was, by the way, the poem is by Ruben Dario.
So beautiful. People are really enjoying this. Okay. Danny Boy.
Right, it takes a while to get there, though. It starts with Little Boy Blue.
Okay.
Oh,
I wish I knew. I wish we could talk to him about what tonalities he was doing and how he thought about that, because it's fascinating how the voicings that he's put underneath the melodies, just fascinating.
This particular piece for me reminds me a little bit of Busoni, but he was in his modal period. But so I suspect there is an underlying link there to the modes, but it does sound more obviously tonal. You know, the way we think of tonal.
Yes. Okay, Symphony number 2.
Right.
Anything you want to say about it?
This is a digital realization, so you should be prepared for that.
Okay, thank you.
Bringing in the sheaves, right? Yeah.
Okay. We got a few more to go, so I wanted to make sure we give full exposure to.
Maybe instead of doing another. All right, yeah, we could excerpt this, sure.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, at this time, I'm game.
Mm-hmm. So the fact this was synthesized, I'm assuming it was never actually played as a full orchestra?
No, actually, this was only finished. He only finished this, revising it about a year before he passed. So,
oh, wow.
His last, I'd say 6-7 years were taken up with symphonic work. So
yeah.
He certainly never had a chance to circulate them.
Oh, wow. I'd love to have heard that, live. Okay.
Well, maybe one day.
Yeah. Okay, so we're actually starting this about at 1:13 in the piece, I believe, and this is Sanctus 2, is that true?
Yes, it's from a setting of the Mass for 6 parts, and this is leading into the Hosanna.
Now, did he write this during his seminary days?
No, this was written, I believe, in 2016 again, right before, or no, it was a little earlier, maybe 2013. No, but he obviously... religion played a large part in his life. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Gloria. Hosanna, Hosanna in excelsis. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in excelsis. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. Hosanna, 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 Hosanna in excelsis, in excelsis, in excelsis. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in excelsis. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in excelsis. Hosanna, 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 Hosanna. Hosanna, 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 Hosanna in excelsis, in excelsis. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna.
Just so beautiful. I just don't want to, there's 2 more, and I want to make sure we don't go too much past 8:30.
Right.
Now, this is responsorium to his sister, I believe.
Yes, his younger sister passed in 1986.
So I thought we'd play some of this. I'm sure he'd appreciate that.
You can hear the Gregorian chant in that piece.
Yeah, definitely. And this last piece that we're playing now.
This is he's playing on synthesizer. This is a work he wrote called Dance that was actually choreographed too.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
taking us on this journey.
Sure.
We could meet him. It's
My
the
pleasure.
first
If
we'll ever
any,
get to it.
if there are any questions that you want to forward to me after, I'm happy to send answers to you. And thanks for having us, and us being me and Andrew. And I do hope that some of our listeners will check out a little bit more of Andrew's music.
You know, they certainly appreciate it. In fact, I have one. Phyllis said here, he makes the key of C sound intriguing. He certainly is an amazing fellow, and I wish we could interview him directly, but we heard so much about him and who he was, and you shared with us so much of what he was, and you obviously were close and knew him quite well over many years, and we appreciate that insight. Unfortunately, I don't think the chats come through in the recording, and as a matter of fact, I put in the wrong link at first for the YouTube link, but we'll make sure in the actual recording that we'll add at the end the proper links, and also when we mail this out to people, and thank you for attending, we will send them other information about how to find Andrew Violette online and follow up that way. So thank you again.
Sure.
Bruce, this is probably the most well-prepared interview ever, and I think your radio show experience of many years really helped a lot. But I was so impressed with the detail that you went through, and oh my God, and a lot of thought went into this. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're quite welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Jenks Center. Thanks to Cummings for the Cummings grant. Thank you to people like Joe Blanchard and Rich Sacalo who made contributions. We really appreciate that. And thank you all out there. I see some familiar names and faces. In fact, I'm scrolling through now to see all the people that have come to these before, and it's a pleasure to have you here, and hope that you spread the good word about these wonderful shows. We'll be doing another interview next month with Thomas Beveridge, who actually does some wonderful writing in Jewish music, and that's going to be quite a wonderful event. And I can't thank you enough again, Bruce. This was amazing.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. All right. Take care. Good night, everybody.
Everyone, have a great night.
Program.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Alex, for your help and comments as well.
And I was so impressed also now about the Rubén Darío. Is a poet from Nicaragua, my country.
Mm.
And I just learned a lot about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda. Everyone, have a great night.
Good night.
See you next time.
Thank you.